I think it's devastating. It's a devastating loss, and it's a familiar story, right? Because similar to Buffalo's inability to win the Super Bowl 4 straight tries, they can't beat the Chiefs either. They've lost to them 4 times. Otherwise, they probably would have. Maybe they'd have 2 Super Bowls now as a result of that, and they haven't. They got none, and they have these loss streaks. One in the Super Bowl way back there, and against the Giants and against Dallas, they just couldn't. They could not come through. They had their chances too, and now against Buffalo, now against the Chiefs, they've got this problem. And can they break through it? I don't know. The AFC Championship was a classic and a heartbreaking loss for the Bills. They had a chance on 4th down at the end there with about 3 minutes left, but Kincaid couldn't come up with the catch to sustain the drive. He had a horrible game. I'm sorry. I got to tell you, I don't think he thought that ball was coming to him. Josh Allen, I'm sure, didn't think it was going to come anywhere near him. He just heaved it. Because they misread the defense and didn't realize that they were going to get both a safety and a corner blitz, and that put Allen way back on his heels, not even seeing where the ball was going. The fact that it got to Kincaid and he should have caught it was pretty amazing, and it was a chance. It was their last chance, and they lost it. The season really ended, I think, on the failed 4th down play earlier in the game, even though the replay showed they made it. And several different angles they made it. I just don't understand how that call went against them. Even though they came back from deficits of 21-10 and 29-22, they had a chance to drive for a leading TD, 4 minutes left, 4th and 5 from their own 47. They were surprised by the safety in the corner blitz, and that's on them. I think you got to read that defense to have an idea what's coming. The prayer pass to Kincaid should have been caught, as I said, and Kincaid admitted it. Allen's comments, you can either get it done or you can't, and we didn't get it done. They've ended a lot of teams' seasons, too. It's a good squad. They have a good plan. They had a good plan tonight, and again, they made one more play than we did. The Bills were only 2 of 5 on short yardage quarterback sneaks, which is one of their signatures. They managed to complete them 20 of 21 times. It's the most run stops, 2 of 5 since 2016, and the game really kind of turned on those. Only 2 out of 5. McDermott thought they had it on 4th down, and he was right. When it was at 13 minutes left to go, the Chiefs scored 32 points in this game, the most this season for them. Mahomes, 12 of 15, 169 yards and a TD against man coverage. So again, I think the Bills' coaching played a role in this, as it has in prior games, in their defeat. Despite the splash plays by Samuel, who caught that pass in the back of the end zone on 4th down, and Hollins, who made some beautiful catches there. One, if he could only have gotten in the end zone there with the big catch that he made. And Cook, how he twisted his body into a pretzel to get over the line there. And Oliver, who picked up the fumble by Mahomes. They had the splash plays, but they couldn't get it done.
Well, and what's crazy is that this is the first team in this playoff atmosphere in 2024, 2025, where the team that has a turnover ended up winning the game. The Chiefs are the only team in this entire playoff run to do that. Every other team that had a turnover lost the game besides the Chiefs. Now, I've done this before and people have gotten mad at me. I think that the blame needs to be stretched out pretty evenly amongst everybody. Every single coach, player, whoever was on the field deserves a little bit of blame. I'll start with this one. Let's start with Sean McDermott. His defense, the secondary against the Chiefs in Week 11 was a very key factor in their win against Kansas City because they held Mahomes to under 200 yards and also ended up getting 2 interceptions. One that was just a heave at the very end of the game, but one crucial one because I believe it was the first throw that Mahomes ever had in that game. And in this one, they decided to play a bunch of man defense. Nearly half of their snaps were man defense. They got the 2-point conversion on man defense because DeMar Hamlin sucks in man coverage. And Mahomes went 12 of 15 for 169 yards and a touchdown against man. Also had 2 quarterback touchdowns against man coverage. Man did not work for the Buffalo Bills, but they kept doing it. But it didn't work. First down, Xavier Worthy cooked on man coverage. I mean, the Bills just decided to play that terribly. The second portion of the blame is, why the hell was James Cook nowhere to be found through large portions of this game, especially late? James Cook and Ty Johnson nearly had the exact same snap count. 33 for James Cook, 30 for Johnson. James Cook had 85 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Johnson did next to nothing. But yet they almost had the exact same snap count. This is the exact same thing that the Ravens did last year against the Chiefs, when the Chiefs had a pretty poor rushing defense, and the Ravens were the number 1 rushing defense, and the Ravens running backs ran it 6 times. James Cook was an integral part of how the Buffalo Bills got here. Yes, Josh Allen had a tremendously efficient season, but James Cook was a massive part of the Bills' success. He tied for the league lead in rushing touchdowns and was a very key cog of the way that this offense operated. Yet he nearly tied the snaps with a backup running back whose effectiveness in the game was essentially nothing. James Cook had 85 yards, I believe, and 2 touchdowns. I want to make sure. 85 yards on 13 carries for 2 touchdowns. What are we doing here? Not only that, here's a second thing. What's with the 4th down tush pushes? I want to make sure I get this clip up here. Because we noticed that the tush push or the brotherly shove is very effective for the Philadelphia Eagles. And there's a reason why. Tell me if you notice anything in particular about the way the Bills run this tush push. Because for me, it was very glaring. And by the way, that's the play I thought Josh Allen would do against the Baltimore Ravens, which he nearly didn't do. I mean, there's one glaring thing I don't think people realize.
That one, he got the first down. They didn't give it to him.
Well, that counted as a failure.
Successful.
No, here's something I noticed.
Successful.
Here's something I noticed between the way the Eagles operate the tush push and the way the Bills operated it. The Philadelphia Eagles use a guy named Saquon Barkley, whose nickname is Quadzilla, and they also use a tight end. You saw Taron Johnson and James Cook as single backs trying to push Josh Allen. And sometimes you saw Gilliam also try to push him. I'm sorry. I'd like Saquon Barkley and another tight end to push me instead of a 200-pound running back.
Or how about having...
Because that's at least 400 pounds pushing me instead of 200.
How about Baltimore's strategy? They have Mark Andrews under center, and then they push him.
And even
he's much bigger and
the Chiefs
stronger.
have also had Noah Gray out there taking the tush push as well, or the QB sneak, however you want to call it.
But they've been very successful all year long with it, Nate. 20 of 21.
Well, no, and
they blew it in the biggest game of the year, 2 of 5.
You know why? Because every single 3rd and short and 4th and short, they ran up to the goal line like, oh my God, we're going to get the Chiefs this time by doing an obvious QB sneak. And I was saying this all game. Run a bootleg. Do something other than a QB sneak on short yardage. That James Cook touchdown was a rollout to the right. Something that wasn't a QB sneak because they kept trying it and trying it and trying it. And then they went 3 of 7 on 1 yard or fewer on these tush pushes. 3 of 7.
It was bad.
It was blatantly obvious what the Bills were trying to do.
It cost them the game, those plays.
It was so blatantly obvious, and they kept doing it, and the Chiefs executed that on defense tremendously well.
The Bills were outcoached by the Chiefs again.
Absolutely.
Yet again.
Now, here's where I'll get into partial Josh Allen blame and also partial Joe Brady blame, because this was probably the most obvious thing. This is something that you were getting at, but I wanted to break it down fully. And I'll bring up the clip right now. This was the last play of the game. They've had 6, potentially 7 blitzers against 5 offensive linemen, so already you're at a disadvantage. Already. And this is what Josh Allen was looking. Osiris Torrance, the right guard, instantly gets beat. Josh Allen's immediately on his back feet. And Dalton Kincaid, you could argue, should have made that. It was an easy catch. But look at Khalil Shakir. That's the hot route. If Josh Allen identifies that blitz and sees there's 7 versus my 5, or 6 versus my 5, you should be looking there anyway, which he's done tremendously against man coverage all season. What did the Chiefs play in this one? They played zone. It threw Josh Allen off because they didn't have a linebacker or a cornerback following Shakir to throw him off with that motion that they do. I think that this was a bad play call. I also wouldn't do it in spread especially when there's a 6, potentially 7v5, because that's Trent McDuffie at the top of the screen. He's the second best defensive back in pass rush this season. So you're telling me that you're willing to go up and hope that your offensive linemen, who are already at a disadvantage in a 6, potentially 7v5, could hold up just enough for Dalton Kincaid to get downfield in order to get them in field goal range? I think that's bad play calling. I think that's bad structure. I put that on Joe Brady, and I put that slightly on Josh Allen, not identifying that my offensive linemen, and especially because everybody knows Steve Spagnuolo draws up these crazy blitzes late. And normally they come from the interior with Chris Jones doing something to torment everybody. They did that in the AFC Championship game. They did that in Week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. We remember Justice Hill ended up having to block Chris Jones on the Isaiah Likely pass. That's what was crazy about it. But you don't know that they're obviously going to blitz you on the obvious potential last play of the game for you on a 4th and 5? Nobody thinks that Steve Spagnuolo is going to blitz the hell out of you? I mean, you could see it in the lineup. It was a 6v5, and somehow you didn't realize that. You couldn't identify that something's definitely going to go on here. Because let's say one of those guys breaks out into coverage. Then it's a 5v5. Josh Allen could use his legs if he wants. He could use the Khalil Shakir motion out. But instead, he has to be on his back feet trying to make a hell of a play. And yes, that's where Dalton Kincaid does get some of the blame. It was a crazy play. He had to come back for it a little bit and go off to his side.
He should have gone to Shakir.
Correct. That was the right.
He was wide open. There's nobody over there.
Correct. I'm not blaming Josh Allen for throwing it to Kincaid because that was the play that was designed. The roll to the right, try to make a hell of a play, and Kincaid was open. He was open.
He should have caught the ball.
And he had an opportunity to catch the football.
He had a terrible game, Kincaid. He had an awful game. He was rated the lowest offensive player by PFF in the game.
I would also say that the game started off terribly for Josh Allen because he had again, this goes on coaching. Some of this goes on Josh Allen just because of the plays, and I'll show the 2 plays at the very beginning of the game. But to open with Josh Allen's scramble and 2 passes when James Cook, again, has been a key part of the offense, this is what I mean with Josh Allen deserves a little bit of blame, but Joe Brady does as well. Because these are back-to-back plays that should have ended up in the Chiefs' hands. Brian Cook had an opportunity to pick off both of these passes and didn't do it. But these are 2 plays that should have been Chiefs' ball at the very beginning of the game. That should have been picked off twice.
Yeah.
So
they got off to a terrible start. They got off to a very slow start.
Josh Allen seemed very antsy.
Hell yeah.
And those 2 plays right there were trying to make the play. And especially on that first tush push that I showed you, where he flipped it back to Curtis Samuel. What did I say entering this game? Because remember, he almost did the exact same thing against the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional game. He nearly flipped it back to James Cook, but he didn't. That he tried to that was a 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
He tried to. And I said, do not do that.
No, he didn't do it.
Against the Ravens. But against the Chiefs, he tried, but I think it was ruled down by forward progress stopped already, so that they ruled it down. I think Josh Allen didn't play very well. He played okay. They had several opportunities. You could argue about the 3rd and 3, which we'll bring up just for posterity reasons. You could bring up this play all you want. And yes, I think that this should have been a first down.
That's a first down.
And I also agree that on the 4th and 1, it should have been a first down.
That's a first down.
And here's something I'll completely be very upset about. The person that top referee was the only person who saw the ball, and he made the spot. The Chiefs sideline ref was the one that they went with. He can't see the ball at all on this play. Yeah. Yet he was able to overrule a guy who was in line sight with the ball. That's what I don't like. And on the top-down view, I don't know if we have it. Do we have it?
Home field advantage going for a 3-peat. That influenced the refs.
We have it a little bit later, but on the top-down view, it's pretty obvious that he gets it over. And even there, you could say that the ball does get over. And even Gene Steratore, who's the broadcast ref,
said they got it.
It got over by a third.
The announcers, everyone thought they got it except the ref, who watched the play at least a half dozen times over on the sideline.
Right.
Ridiculous.
I think that there was opportunities to be had that the Bills could have executed on better. But when it comes down to it, they didn't make the plays necessary. They failed late. Offensively, they could have done much better early in the game. I think that this was just very, very poor, and I think that we're going to keep looking back at the Buffalo Bills, and they're going to say, well, what needs to be different? We got Josh Allen, a superstar receiver, and it worked out okay. Then we got rid of him, and then we made the AFC Championship game in that first year. But we still keep getting out-coached. We still keep falling short.
The superstar receiver was
Stephon
Diggs.
Did I say Josh Allen? Excuse me.
Yeah.
I said this before and I'll say it again. Sean McDermott needs to be on the hot seat. At some point, you have to realize that in the big spots, he makes poor decisions.
Yeah.
His defense crumbled late. Mahomes came up in late in the game, Mahomes kept moving the football. They scored 11 points in the fourth quarter.
They went right down the field. After they got the ball, after that fourth down, missed call.
Yeah, they just
went right down the field.
Moved right down.
Right down the field. Didn't take them any time at all. It was easy.
Yeah. And I think that has to fall on Sean McDermott. You keep saying, well, we'll figure it out next year. We'll regroup this year and do it.
And switching back to the zone coverage was something they should have recognized there. 12 of 15 for 169 yards and a TD.
Also,
against
Mahomes
the man
had
coverage.
two rushing touchdowns as well.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point,
Mahomes is a super player. There's no doubt about that.
No, nobody's questioning that.
And he and Andy Reid are the reason they won this game, I think. I mean, the defense was porous against the run, but they managed to make an adjustment and kind of correct that near the end. So, you got to give the Chiefs a lot of credit, but I think I'll be rooting against them in the Super Bowl.
So we already know what your pick is. You give a little bit of
I'm going to pick the Eagles, and maybe it's an emotional pick, but I don't think the Chiefs should deserve to win it this year. I really don't. After those calls in the Bills game, that was that's too much advantage. You shouldn't have that happen.
I think that, and I'll say it until something happens. Sean McDermott needs to at least get more looks than he has. Yes, in the regular season he could be great.
You think they should fire him?
I think that he should be on the hot. I don't care if he made the AFC Championship game. I don't care if he keeps making the playoffs. At some point, you have to realize that you keep getting outcoached and you need to make some sort of change. I think that there were, maybe not this cycle, and I don't think next cycle, because Mike McCarthy may be the leading candidate for next cycle, but I think that there were opportunities to be had, and Sean McDermott keeps falling through. And I think that if there's an opportunity to potentially, if Mike Vrabel was available, I think he would have been a perfectly fine choice. If Bill Belichick becomes available next year, maybe that could be a good choice. Maybe, I don't know. I'm throwing options out there. Sean, you may need to just settle with Sean McDermott and realize that he screws up in big-time moments. Well, he makes some questionable calls, putting a backup running back in for 30 snaps and your best running back in for 33, who dominated this game, and the Chiefs couldn't stop him with 85 yards and 2 touchdowns.
We should say this, though. Neither one of us picked them to make the playoffs this year. And they did get to the AFC Championship game, and it was a very close game, and they had a bunch of calls go against them. So,
they had opportunities. Sean
McDermott, you can give him a lot of credit for building a team that can get there, but in the in-game decisions, the in-game decision-making and the adjustments along the way, there's some question marks there.
Like, for instance, you run on a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and 1. Tony Romo, Jim Nantz are all saying, are they going for a QB sneak again? Are they going for another tush push? It was blatantly obvious.
That's all they tried.
And on top of that, you run it, the push being a backup 200-pound running back instead of a tight end and a guy who could bench 600 pounds. Or squat 600 pounds, sorry, not bench 600. There's a difference why the Eagles, people are pissed at the Eagles for doing it, and it always works. The Bills are running it with one guy pushing Josh Allen, who's about a foot shorter than him and weighs about 50 pounds less.
Yeah.
I mean, some people got to realize that the Eagles have 2 guys pushing, say, Jalen Hurts. The Bills have 1 guy.
And Baltimore has the tight end getting Mark the ball Andrews, and running it, and people pushing him.
Right.
I actually think they have the best strategy.
At some point, you had to realize in the game, like, we've tried this 5 times. It's worked on 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see it.
Why are we going to go back to it?
We're going to see it again in the Super Bowl. We'll see how the Eagles do.
I'm sure we would.
I'm sure they'll learn something from watching the Bills screw it up.
I mean, the Eagles have always found success doing it. I mean, I think they stopped 1 or 2 times against the Commanders, but overall, I mean, there's the reason why people are so mad about the Eagles and people are mad about the tush push, and it should get it should become illegal in the NFL. I mean, to be honest, I just saw the Chiefs shut down Josh Allen and the Bills for trying to do it. I saw the Commanders stop Jalen Hurts from doing it. I think once or twice. I mean, it can be stopped. The Chiefs did a phenomenal job at doing it. The Bills went 3 of 7 on 1 yard or fewer in this game. I don't think it should be outlawed, but
I don't think it should be outlawed.
That's what fans want. They think it's a cheap play.
They don't like to play, huh?
They think it's a cheap play.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching this clip of the Harvey Hour. If you want to watch the full show, you can by clicking the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to take the show with you on the go, it is available wherever you get your podcast. We go live here on YouTube every single Tuesday and Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell to get notified whenever we upload a video and whenever we go live.